Today I am going to talk about Aldous Huxley, who was born in 1894 and died in 1963. And he is said to be a very famous English novelist and essayist. So remember his full name, which is Aldous Leonard Huxley. And he belongs to the modernist era and has been said to be one of the writers who was very popular when it comes to talking about utopian novels and dystopian novels. And his grandfather was a very famous zoologist named as Thomas Henry Huxley, who is also known as Darwin's bulldog for his advocacy of Darwin's theory of evolution. So I hope you must have heard about the concept of survival of the fittest, then one who is able to modify himself according to the changing conditions is said to have been the fittest. Okay, so that's the Darwin's theory, which was coming into existence in the 19th century. And his grandfather was very he was very much intact with that, and he that's why he propagated this theory. And he is also said to be the grand nephew of very famous Victorian writer Matthew Arnold. He has intended to become an scientist earlier, but he got due to some serious attack on his health. He just became totally blinded for a period of 18 months, and that's why he could not become a scientist. And later on, still while he became totally blinded for 18 months, later on he just regained his sight, but it was not fully recovered. So he got to use very high power glasses for that, and that's why he just started focusing on the self, and then he started writing literature. He is also said to be the editor of the Oxford Poetry magazine, and his first poetry came out in 1916. His first novel is said to be Chrome Yellow, which is very famous. And Chrome Yellow is satirized as the fads and the fashion of time. He is known for his most famous dystopian novel, Dystopia. Do you know what is dystopia? So, in dystopian novel, every future is represented, which is not very beautiful. It is completely ruined and destructive. When it comes to utopian, you see a beautiful future. Okay, but here it is the reality which is being exposed, and somehow they say that we are living in a dystopian world. This 21st century is also a kind of a dystopian world. So these writers were writing during that time, and they were imagining this world to be coming in the near future. And something which which is very prominent during that time, as we will see in H.G. Wells as well. Okay, so I'll talk about Brave New World in bit detail, because Brave New World is the title of this work is derived from Miranda's speech from William Shakespeare's The Tempest. And it is said to be have been set in London of 2050. Okay, AD 2050, 2550, sorry, 2540, 2540. And it is depicting a world where there is a totalitarian government which is controlling the society by the use of science and technology. And in his later life, Huxley started to experiment with hallucinating drugs, you can say, such as LSD. I don't know what has happened to me yesterday. I'm just a bit nervous, you can say, because I have to cover a lot. But ठीक है, I'll focus. See, he has you shown the popular uses of drugs, okay, in his novels such as Brave New World and in Iceland. So he is talking about all those things which are coming into function and which is being called as high class or elite class, and is shown as something which is very much popular but is not good for them. So he is writing about all those drugs, and somewhere he is prohibiting us from the uses, because he says that the future is not very bright. As you can see, the dystopian world is being represented here. And in 1954, he published a very important study of consciousness expansion through mescaline, which is again a drug named as the dose of perception. Okay, so the dose of perception and heaven and hell, he is talking about the experience of psychiatric drug for the first time. So he is showing in his works the characters are taking these kinds of drugs, they are getting involved in this drug culture, but somewhere he is also criticizing it. Okay, as I'll discuss Brave New World, I'll tell it to you more. He died on 22nd November 1963, and he has been said to have a very extensive association with the Vedanta Society of Southern California, which is headed by Swami Prabhavananda. And he was introduced to the Vedantas by Christopher Isherwood. Okay, so remember, I am telling you this. Remember, he wrote intro to Bhagavad Gita and translated as Songs of God. Okay, he wrote introduction to Bhagavad Gita's translated version, Songs of God, by which was translated by Christopher Isherwood and Swami Prabhavananda. So he wrote an introduction to Bhagavad Gita's translated version, which was translated by Christopher Isherwood and Prabhavananda. Okay, and this was asked in the exam once. So remember this, that he was in the influence of Swami Prabhavananda, and he met him through Christopher Isherwood. Then the title of his 1936 novel Eyeless in Gaza is has been said to be taken from Milton's Samson Agonistus. And here I have given you the important list of the works written by Aldous Huxley. Okay, so the first work which I am going to talk about is Chrome Yellow, which is said to have been written the first novel, and it was written in 1921. Okay, are you jotting down the points which I am telling you to do along with the slides?
Yes.
Yes, please do that, because these are important points which are not there in the slides, but I have seen it somewhere in the question paper, or here and there. From there, I have taken it out. So just write it down. So, the Chrome Yellow was published in 1921, and it is a satire on fashion of that time. It is a satire on fashion of that time, and it is based on a country house party, which is in a way written to satirize the morality of Victorian era. So in Victorian era, we were seeing that there was very much class consciousness and Victorian morality. So these things are being satirized in this novel. And this, the very important thing about this novel is that it has a character named as Madame Sosostris. Day before yesterday, on Friday, I guess, I talked about one writer who has a character named Madame Sosostris in a very in his magnum opus.
In Westland.
Yes, very good. So Madame Sosostris is a character in Chrome Yellow. Write it down. Then the next work is Antique Hay. Antique Hay is set during World War One in 19 and it was published in 1923. It is talking about post-war London's nihilistic bohemian attitude. Like nihilism focuses on being very agonist and not conforming with the rules and regulations of the society. So this work is talking about the post-war London's nihilistic bohemian attitude, and that's why this book was banned and burnt in Cairo. This book was banned and burnt in Cairo. And there was a question asked that from where the title has been taken. So the title has been taken from Marlowe's Edward the Second. Marlowe's Edward the Second. And this is a novel, comic novel called as Novel of Ideas. This is a comic novel called as Novel of Ideas. Not this work is not called as Novel of People, but Novel of Ideas. Then the next work is Those Barren Leaves, and the title has been taken from Wordsworth's Tables Turned. Wordsworth Table Turned. Okay. Then the next work is Point Counterpoint, which was published in 1928. Point Counterpoint. And when I was talking about D.H. Lawrence, I told you there is a character named as Mark Rampion, which is there in Point Counterpoint, and it is based on D.H. Lawrence. So remember this. This was once asked in the exam. So it has one character named as Mark Rampion. Mark Rampion, based on D.H. Lawrence. So this work has been written with an attempt to musicalize fiction. With an attempt to musicalize fiction. Okay. Then the next work is Brave New World, about which I'll talk a bit later. Firstly, I'll tell you all the important points. Next work is Eyeless in Gaza. Eyeless in Gaza. It is based on the Samson Agonistus by whom? John Milton. John Milton's Samson Agonistus. Okay. It has a character named as Anthony Bevis. It has a character named as Anthony Bevis, Beavis, who is quite egoistic. Who is quite egoistic. Then the next work is After Many Summer. After Many Summer. It is set in Hollywood. It is set in Hollywood and is said to be a philosophical novel. It is a philosophical novel, and the title is taken from Tennyson's poem Tithonus. Tennyson has written one poem named as Tithonus. So title has been taken from there. Then the next work is Times Must Have a Stop. Time Must Have a Stop. And the title from this of this work has been taken from Henry the Fourth Part 1. Henry the Fourth Part 1. Okay. Next work is Ape and Essence. Ape and Essence. And it is a dystopian novel. And it is also written as a satire on war. Dystopian novel written as a satire on war. Then next work which I talked to you about previously, Doors of Perception, Heaven and Hell. It is talking about his experience of a psychiatric drug, mescaline, for the first time. Mescaline, mescaline. Okay. Now, uh, now his last novel, which is Island, 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 Island. It is the Norse novel and a science fiction utopian novel which is set in Pala, 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 set in Pala. Okay, remember this, the title, the setting, Pala, because in exam once they have asked this. And it is dealing with a drug called as moksha. It has characters who are consuming one drug called as moksha. Okay, so the name of the drug is quite important, moksha. Now let's talk about the very famous work. See, I have given you here you the essay collection as well, so you can just take a screenshot, and the video will be available. And what I was saying, I have taken it from Wikipedia, so you can go and check it on Wikipedia as well. Now the work Brave New World. Remember the publishing year, which is 1932, and it is said to be a dystopian novel set in 2540 AD, 2540 AD. Okay, remember this. And this is a work in which he is talking about what kind of future we are going to have. Okay, what kind of future we are going to have. So this novel is anticipating the developments in the reproduction technology, which is sleep learning, and psychological manipulation, how we will be manipulated, and how we will not be getting reproduced as it used to be, as it is now. There will be some new technologies, and there will be categories of students who are getting developed through some technology and named as alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and epsilons. And in that, alpha and beta are said to have been high class. Okay, and gammas, deltas, and epsilons will have to be from the lower class. So this categorization will always be there, the difference between the characteristics. Okay, and he has talked about a kind of a society in which there is a character named as Mustafa Mond, and he is going on a vacation. So he talks to the director and asks for permission. So director tells him that once I also went to the that place for kind of vacation, and there I met with one girl, and then due to certain consequences I had to leave that place, and my that girl was is having my child, and she got pregnant while we were there. So could not go there. But as soon as he confesses this, he starts thinking that what if Mustafa will tell everybody about the kind of the process I followed for the reproduction. So the process of sexual conjugation which we are having is no longer there. So it has become a taboo now. So director starts threatening Mustafa Mon, and Mustafa, when he goes there, so he meets one boy named as John and his mother Linda. So they are you must have seen Mowgli. So Mowgli was living among the animals, and he knew the language which animals spoke. He did not talk in the normal language like the humans do. So the same happened with John and Linda, but Linda was quite intelligent, so she introduced his her son to William Shakespeare's novels. So John is constantly quoting William Shakespeare. And when Mustafa meets them, he takes them back to the country and to threaten the director. And when John comes here, John is totally unaware of the society and how the culture is, how what's the culture, how they deal with people. So he is totally mismanaged, and he doesn't know, he is disillusioned. And later on you will see that they are trying to take advantage of John, as they are putting him in a cage, and to for the purpose of showing everybody, where John is beating himself and cursing himself for being born in such a world, such a dystopian land. And the people are coming and seeing him, and taking enjoyment from that, the pain which is reflected in the John's personality. So that's how the Brave New World is said to have been written, in which we are saying, Miranda is saying, uh, like what a kind of a land we are going to live in. Okay, so this is not the world which we are aspiring for, but he has said to have it to be there, and said that it will be like something which we will not like anyhow, but it is going to somewhere in that direction. The process is going in that direction. And this work is also been has been said to be inspired by H.G. Wells's Men Like Gods. Men Like Gods. H.G. Wells has written Men Like Gods and A Modern Utopia. A Modern Utopia. So it has been inspired by H.G. Wells's Men Like Gods, A Modern Utopia. Then then he wrote one another work named as Brave New World Revisited. Brave New World Revisited. And in the Brave New World, he is saying that the dystopian is about to come. And in this work, Brave New World Revisited, he is saying that that dystopian world is coming soon, as we predicted it to be coming, but it is coming at a faster pace. So it is coming more fastly than we thought it to be. Now, the next writer, and a very, very important, George Bernard Shaw. He is a dramatist. So, see, firstly, I thought of arranging it in the age of their birth and deaths. Like, but later on, I had to mismanage it a bit because I am trying to categorize poets in one, and then dramatist, and then poetry. Okay, so that's why there is a kind of mismanagement in the chronology, but you have to remember the birth years of all the writers which has been written here, because they will be asked in the exam. So George Bernard Shaw is was born in 1856 and died in 1950, and he is a very famous Irish writer who wrote poetry and literary criticism. He has been said to have written 60 plays. Okay, so he is a very famous playwright, novelist, critic, pamphleteer, essayist. Okay, and he has written more than 25,000 letters. Okay, then he grew up in a very genteel poverty in a Protestant family, and that's why he is constantly criticizing the high class and the modern class attitude. He had a lot of interest in music, art, and literature, and that influence came from his mother. When he started writing, he was not very popular. He failed as a writer, and people did not take his work seriously. But he started establishing himself by writing uh, works which are based on naturalism. Okay, so he is said to be the writer who focused on the natural aspects and the naturalistic aspects of the society. He is said to have been inspired by Henrik Ibsen, and that's why he is also said to be an Ibsenite in tone. And he won Nobel Prize in 1925. So you have to know all the Nobel awardees in detail. So he won Nobel Prize in 1925. And see what is the difference between the works which were being played previously, which were being showcased, and now the kind of drama which is being written was quite different. As Victorian plays were artificial in plots, very conventional character types, so much plasticity was there. Everyone is concerned about marriage and their social life. Henrik Ibsen also, in his work such as Doll's House and other works, he is commenting upon this conventional form of society. You must remember Nora, who is leaving her husband behind and making a move and saying that I cannot tolerate this anymore. So, in George Bernard Shaw being inspired by that kind of a change in the personality of a character, started to bring that modernism and the modernistic attitude in his work. Shaw's plays are Shaw wrote one work named as Quit Sense of Ibsenism, which was published in 1891, and it is said to have been inspired by the ideas of Henrik Ibsen. So, as I told you, he is also said to be one Ibsenite. and he is his works are very sternly dealing with the social problems. Okay, he is using, see what we do generally when we talk about literature, we just somehow think of putting a work like we think that a literary work must have all those aspects which are critiquing the society. He does that. Okay, he has all those elements with where he is showcasing all the social problems, but he uses a kind of a comedy or satire to make those things more lightly, and the purpose is also fulfilled, because that idea of marriage, if it is like when you talk about arms and the men, so how futile the concept of marriage is, how those brave notions of war is so much it is very less magnanimous as we think it to be. For us, war is like, if somebody is participating in the war and is in the army, that makes him very heroic. But George Bernard Shaw in his play is mocking at that, and he is saying वो जरूरी नहीं है कि वो इतना ब्रेव हो, अगर कोई सोल्जर है तो वो जरूरी नहीं कि वो ब्रेव हो. So through his character of Bluntsley in Arms and the Men, he is trying to represent the reality of the war, that nobody wants to fight, nobody wants to go on a war. We instead of carrying guns and pistols, we love to carry food because we feel hungry on the way. And old soldiers are also there. They generally move at the last, and nobody wants to go in the front and die, but it is their duty and they are bound by duty. That's why they have to do it. There is nothing like brave being a part of an army and being a soldier. Okay, so he says that nobody wants to have a war, but though the war is there and it has been so much in like trend that you are a war veteran and so, that's why people are encouraged to take parts in war. He is said to have been the only person who has been awarded both the Nobel Prize and the Oscar for the film, for his work on the film Pygmalion. It is also a novel by George Bernard Shaw. So he wrote the screenplay of the movie Pygmalion. So remember this, that he is the only person who has received both the Nobel Prize and the Oscar. Now, when you will talk about his works have been said to be categorized into two categories, which is the unpleasant plays and the pleasant plays. So, the unpleasant plays are, uh, it is named as plays unpleasant because they were not intended to create an entertainment or pleasure. They were not there for the purpose of giving you entertainment, but they were there because it is talking about all those social problems. It is talking about the exploitation and to raise awareness. Okay, so he is using these kinds of work to raise awareness among the society. So that's why it is an unpleasant play. And he is using this kind of technique to make the audience aware about the problems which are there in the society. And pleasant play, as you all know, is talking about all the merry-go-round things and good things. So there are two categories in which these two plays fall. So I will name them and you write it down. The plays which are unpleasant, or the unpleasant plays, are: first one is Widower's House. The first unpleasant play is Widower's House. The second one is The Philanderer. And the third one is Mrs. Warren's Profession. Mrs. Warren's Profession. And now note down the list of pleasant plays. Pleasant plays are Arms and the Man, Candida, Man of Destiny, and You Can Never Tell. Arms and the Men, Candida, Man of Destiny, and You Can Never Tell. Sorry. So let's talk about all of these works in a brief way. So Mrs. Warren's Profession is said to be the first work which was published by George Bernard Shaw. It see when it was publicly performed, it was interrupted by police, and the police arrested the cast and the crew because it is talking about a woman who is formerly a prostitute. Her name is Mrs. Warren, and she is currently owning a brothel, and she has a daughter named as Vivi, and she has sent her daughter to live in a college, and the girl doesn't know the reality of her mother's profession. And when she comes home, and she never spent her life with her mother a lot, so she doesn't know about the reality of the kind of job her mother does. But when she comes to know about her mother's profession, she goes into a turmoil where she doesn't understand how to react. And the play is now focusing upon the aspect which led to Mrs. Warren become a prostitute, and she is the writer is condemning the hypocrisies which are relating to the profession. So Mrs. Warren tells her daughter Vivi that I did not come here because of my choice, but it was because of the circumstances, and I wanted to give you a better life. That's why I came here. So this work is also constantly criticizing the limited employment opportunities which are available for the women in Victorian Britain. Okay, so remember this work, it is important. Now I'm going to talk about the important works by him. So Arms and the Men is one important novel set in which was published in 1894, and it is set in Balkans. As I told you, it is talking about the hollowness of war as well as romance. Okay, so it is said to be a novel which is critically commenting upon the hollowness of war through the character of Bluntschli and Raina, where Raina is firstly engaged to Sergius, who is not very like powerful and capable of being an army captain, but somehow she comes to know that Sergius has performed really well in the war. So she starts admiring Sergius. Earlier, she was not interested in Sergius a lot because she wanted somebody very manly and very bold to have got some medal in the war. But Sergius is not of that sort. But now, since she comes to know that Sergius has got some medal, and he did good in the war, so she starts admiring. At the same time, there is a man named Bluntschli, and Bluntschli is from Serbian army, is a part of Serbian army, and he is taking shelter in the room of Raina and telling her about the reality of the war, as I told you in the beginning. So he is totally, he is bashing all the notions which Raina has created in her mind about the war and the bravery and all the magnanimous ideas which she had. So it is getting just like it is getting thrashed by Bluntschli, and Bluntschli is telling her the realities, and she starts admiring the noble characteristics of Bluntschli, and gives her a portrait of herself, and on the back of the portrait she writes down, from a souvenir to my chocolate cream soldier. So as he is threatening Raina, so he is saying that I have a gun with which I will shoot you if you will start making noise. But he, instead of carrying a gun in the war, he is carrying chocolates in his bag. So this is quite ironical for Raina. And when he tells about the reality that Sergius did not do really well in the fight, but what happened in reality, उसका घोड़ा जो है वो धक्का लग के आगे चला गया था. तो वो मतलब आगे नहीं जाना चाहता था सर्जियस जो है वॉर में, लेकिन वो मतलब उसने सोचा कि जो विंड मिल्स हैं वो सोल्जर्स हैं दूसरे आर्मी के, और वो उन पे अटैक करने के लिए विंड मिल्स को आर्मी सोल्जर समझ के आगे बढ़ गया. सो वो तो मतलब दिस इज द गुड थिंग दैट वो जो दूसरी आर्मी थी उसके हैंड ग्रेनेड्स और जो आर्टिलरीज थे वो सब खत्म हो गए थे. दैट्स व्हाई दे डिक्लेयर्ड विनर इन द वॉर. एंड यहाँ पे when she comes to know about this reality, she is completely dumbstruck and she starts admiring Bluntschli. And Sergius, on the other hand, when he returns from the war, is said to be a man who is just idealizing love. And on the other hand, he has some illegitimate relationship with the maid of Raina. Her name is Lauka. So he has relationship with that girl as well. So this man is just mocking at the idea of true love, or the kind of marriage, to say the conventional marriage in which a man is said to be dedicated towards his woman. And at the end what happens that Sergius is now marrying Loka, and Rana starts to admire Bluntschli. But the parents of Rana are not ready for the marriage because they think that Bluntschli is mere a soldier. And where on the other hand, Rana's father is a major. So they when the news arrives that Bluntschli's father has died and he has left a lot of inheritance for him, then they agree for the marriage. So you can see how ironical it is and how satirical it is that they are not seeing the good qualities of Bluntschli, but they are seeing the inheritance which he has. Okay, so at the end what happens, Bluntschli and Raina gets married. And this work is also said to be one work which is also satirizing the hypocrisies which these people have. Like they are constantly categorizing themselves as better, their country to be better, and the rituals which they are following are to be of a higher class, as if they have a library. So they are showing it off ki they have a library which is the biggest library in the whole area or in the city. So they are just using these little aspects of these uh, uh, Shaw is using these little aspects to criticize the society of that time. And it remember this that the novel is taking place during 1885 in the background of Serbo and Bulgarian war. Okay, so remember this. Now the next work which I am going to talk about is Candida. Candida's subtitle is A Mystery. A Mystery. It is a story about James Morrell and his wife Candida. Okay. And Candida is being loved by another man named as Eugene Marchbanks. So Candida's husband, James Morrell, is a Christian socialist and a clergyman, and he is a very busy man. Okay, he doesn't pay much attention to Candida, and he is always into himself. On the other hand, Eugene Marchbanks is using this as an opportunity to woo Candida and considers her as very divine of a woman, and somewhere similar to the story which you saw in which work, Virginia Woolf's work which we talked about, Mrs. Dalloway. Okay, so in that Mrs. Dalloway also was also getting wooed. But here when there is a confrontation between James Morrell and Eugene Marchbanks, whether who is better between the two. Okay, and then Candida chooses that her husband needs her more because he is just like a man who doesn't know his responsibilities and would not be able to do without the help of Candida. So that's why James Morrell needs her more. Okay, So this is a feminist story which is also said to be based on the Doll's House by Henry Gibson. Then the next work is Man of Destiny, which was published in 1897. Man of Destiny is a story about a lady and how she outwits Napoleon Bonaparte. Okay, it is about it is based on the life story of Napoleon Bonaparte. Then the next work is You Can Never Tell. You Can Never Tell. You Can Never Tell is a story about children who are unknowingly inviting their own unknown father. Okay, so it has a friendly and a very wise waiter named as Walter, and that waiter is also called as William because he is resembling the famous personality William Shakespeare, and he keeps on telling this same thing, he keeps on saying the same thing, you can never tell. So the waiter is constantly repeating this titular phrase, you can never tell. Then he has written three plays for Puritans. So these works are called as Puritan plays. The first one is Devil's Disciple. Second one is Caesar and Cleopatra. And third work is Captain Brassbound's Conversation. Captain Brassbound's Conversation. Now, next I'm going to talk about very famous work named as Man and Superman, which is a four-act play, and it is based on Nietzsche's philosophy of Übermensch, which he gave in the work Thus Spoke Zarathustra. So this work is talking about the concept of Übermensch, which is a man has heroic capacities. A man has something extra in him which a woman always wants it to be in their partner. So a man always has those qualities which a woman wants in their partner, and that's what leads to a good social life or a good married life. So we are going to see in this work that this work is based on Don Juan, which is written as Don Juan's theme, who was a womanizer. So here the protagonist is Miss Anne Whitefield, who is the daughter of Mr. Whitefield and who has recently died, leaving her in the care of two men named as Robert Ramsden and Jack Tanner. So Jack Tanner is a man who is very violent and volatile in his nature. He is very much against the laws and regulations. He constantly thinks about disrupting the law and doing something different. Okay, so he one day gets into a trap, and he is there when he is getting beaten up. Then he starts thinking himself to be Don Juan, and he thinks himself to be the womanizer who is yearning for love, and the takes he takes the story and he starts imagining himself to be that person whose shoulders the man relies upon, and he needs to do the better in the society. So Anne Whitefield is admiring all those characters of Jack Tanner, and she wants him to marry her, but he is not accepting her in the beginning. Later on, he goes on to accept Anne Whitefield's proposal and starts thinking of being in a relationship with her, following the concept that a woman always needs a man who has all those Ubermensch or Superman qualities in him. This work is also dealing with the theory of life force. Okay, so this work is also dealing with the theory of life force, which was given by George Bernard Shaw, in which he says that only intelligent people should be together. So Jack Tanner, that's why, thinks himself to be the intelligent one and is searching for a better partner. But when he comes to know more about Anne Whitefield, then he thinks that she is the best partner he could have. Okay, and in this work also there is a story, there is a concept of sexual needs, as a man and a woman are marrying each other only for the purpose of their social needs and sexual needs. Okay, so there is nothing other than that. You can see this in the character of Octavius Robinson's sister as well. So she is also marrying a man of high class just for the purpose of fulfilling her sexual desires, where she is getting pregnant by that man. And these works were written during the modernist era, which was talking about all those ideas which were not prevalent or which was not said to be there before this. So you have to remember how important this work is, and you have to read the summary of Man and Superman. Next work is Pygmalion. Pygmalion was said to be published in 1913. It is a musical play. It has a musical play attached to it named as My Fair Lady. It has a musical play attached to it named as My Fair Lady. So, Pygmalion is the title taken from Ovid's Metamorphosis. Remember this, Ovid's Metamorphosis. Okay, so Pygmalion, you must have heard the story of Greek mythology. Greek mythological character is there named as Pygmalion, who fell in love with a sculpture. So Pygmalion fell in love with the sculpture, and because of this, God has to make him mortal and put life in it. Okay. So here, what is the story? There is a lower class girl named as Eliza Doolittle who takes lessons from Professor Henry Higgins, who says, "I can teach anybody English within 6 months." So this man named as Henry Higgins, he has been challenged by Colonel Pickering, and he says that you have to teach this lady who is selling the flowers English. Okay, so uh, Henry Higgins goes for the bet, and he starts transforming Eliza into a higher class lady, which who has culture and is is made to fit in the society. Henry Higgins is like a man who is doing all everything for the purpose of bet, but Eliza, on the other hand, falls in love with him, but feels a heartbreak when he says that you were just a project for me. So Henry Higgins doesn't have any kind of a emotional attachment to her with her. So she just criticizes Higgins for the kind of injustice he did, and she goes back and she goes into a party, and there she is talking like a she's pretending to be a duchess, and she is pretending to have that fake accent which she has recently learned. So this work is based upon the hypocrisies which we are trying to portray in front of the society. We are always trying to show some everyone which we are not. We are not the real self, and we are not representing it in front of the society. And at the end also, it never becomes clear whether she passed as a duchess or not, whether she passed the test or not. But she gets heartbroken, and the reality of people, how they are using each other, is being represented in front of her. So I'll give you 1 minute's break here, and afterwards, then we'll talk about H.G. Wells. Okay.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Can you explain in English when you do sometimes you're speaking in Hindi. I don't
I
know.
just did it for once, I guess. I just don't
I,
prefer speaking Hindi. I did it in once because I thought that there must be some people who might like it in Hindi. Okay, I'll try to incorporate English in that part also.
yeah, I just want to say that. Yeah,
Okay.
no offense.
You are a new student, I guess.
Yes, yes.
Did you join today?
From yesterday's class.
Okay. Okay, let's begin. H.G. Wells was born in 1866 and he died in 1946. His full name is Herbert George Wells, which is very famously known as H.G. Wells. He was a writer of many genres such as novels, history, politics, social commentary on textbook, and he also wrote a lot of science fiction novels. So he that therefore he has been called as a father of science fiction novel, who along with Hugo Ginsberg and Jules Verne. Okay, Jules Verne. He is he has been said to have been published a book named as Textbook of Biology. So he is very much famous when it comes to biology, especially in Darwinian concept. I told you the concept of Darwin. In his later periods, his works became increasingly political and didactic, and he wrote very little science fiction because it was like too much for the society to take in. And he himself indicated in some official documents that his profession was that of a journalist. In science fiction, when it comes to science fiction, he has written works with utopian optimism, and he wrote works such as Modern Utopia or The New World for the Old, in which he is talking about the utopian aspects of the society. But on the other hand, there is such as works such as War of the Worlds or Time Machine, in which he is talking about the dystopian societies which is going to be there in the upcoming near future. And he became very popular for his work, which was The Outline of History, which was published in 1920. Joseph Conrad has addressed Wells as, "You don't really care for people, but you think they can be improved. I do, but I know they can't." His first published book was a textbook of biology in 1893. So they might ask you this in the exam. Then he wrote one work named as The First Men on the Moon, which is a scientific romance and is presented in such a way that there are two protagonists named as Mr. Bedford and Mr. Care, who are discovering the extraterrestrial insect like creature named as selenites, who are there on the moon. Then he wrote certain works named as Island of Dr. Moreau, in which he is also condemning himself for writing such an exercise in youthful blasphemy. Okay. Now, see, he has been recommended for Nobel Prize for 4 times, but he never won the Nobel Prize. And he is very famous when it comes to biology, and you will see in his works such as Tono Bange, where he is incorporating all those features of the modern utopian society, and as well as in some works, you will say the concept of dystopia. Okay, so the first work which I'm going to talk about is The Time Machine. Okay, the chronology is a bit up and down. So The Time Machine was published in 1895, and it is said to be a science fiction novel which takes us in the future, and it is similar to a utopian novel. in which there is an English scientist who is traveling through time machine in future and sees only two types of human species. Like when he goes there through time machine, he sees that only two types of people are there, human species are left there, which is Elio and Morlocks. Elio, Elio, Elio and Morlocks, Morlocks, Elio and Morlocks. So the Elio ones are the pampered lot, and they are lazy. They don't do hard work. Okay, so the Elio is lazy. They don't do hard work, and they are only just for the purpose of spending their time living life lavishly and don't do any kind of work. On the other hand, Morlocks are very hard-working people, and they are surviving on the meats of elu. So here see the concept of survival of the fittest came, where if you are not doing good, if you are not good enough, others will be feeding on you. Others will take advantage of you, and the same thing happens in the case of time machine, in which Morlocks are hardworking people and they are surviving on the meat of elu. Okay, okay, and this year in which it is set, okay, it is set to be one utopian novel, right? So it is set in the year 802701. 802701, like it is 2023, so he is talking about 802701. Okay, and their man have become alloys. So in this work, he is talking about AD 802701, and men have become alloys. And when he goes there, like the traveler, he sees that the world has declined now, and the sun has cooled down. Sun is no longer hot as it is nowadays, and it has cooled down. Okay, and Elios are acting like children. They are very lazy, just like us. Okay, so we are being considered as the precursors of Elios. Then the next work I'm going to talk about is Invisible Man. Invisible Man. Invisible Man is a story of a man named as Ralph Ellison. There is a writer named as Ralph Ellison. He has also written one work named as Invisible Man. Okay, so there is a very famous writer named as Ralph Ellison. He has also written one work named as An Invisible Man. Remember this. So it is about a scientist, Griffin, who has devoted himself so much in research in science, and he manages himself to get invisible. Okay, but when he gets himself invisible, he has a problem in reversing the process. So he is finding it difficult to come back into the reality. Okay, and later on what happened, Giffen becomes one murderer and manhunter, and that's why people are everybody is against him, and they all beat him to death. They all beat him to death. The next work I'm going to talk about is Tono Bange. Tono Bange is said to be one autobiographical novel, since it is most artistic book, because he is criticizing the empire in this work. Okay, he is criticizing the empire. This is a story of a guy named as George Ponderovo. George Ponderovo is being persuaded by his uncle to sell a medicine. It is a patent medicine. Okay, it is a patent medicine named as Tono Bange. So this medicine Tono Bange is like a drugs. So his uncle is asking George Pedrovo to sell it. Okay, but and he wants to because he wants to experience a rise in the social status through business. He wants to learn all those qualities of doing the illegal work, and that's why he is also criticizing it as a work which by commenting on the empire, because he says that these Edwardian people were they were always thinking of their profit. They are always considering the business for the purpose of making money, and they are not thinking about the betterment of the society. They are not thinking about the good parts of the society. So the subtitle of Tono Bange is A Romance of Commerce. A Romance of Commerce.
Ma'am, a romance of commerce is what?
The subtitle of Tono Bange.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes. Then, next work he wrote is War of the Worlds. War of the World. And it is the story of two brothers who were invented by the people of wars. So there is a fight between people of earth and people of Mars. Okay, so the people of earth and people of Mars are fighting each other, and it is standing as an example for British imperialism, in which we see countries are trying to dominate each other and colonize each other, such as Martians are trying to colonize on Earth. Okay, so Martians, when they try to occupy Earth, they are coming from there, but it is so polluted here on Earth that these Martians die due to the bacteria of the Earth. Okay, so here there are some bacteria which are not which are for them it is very toxic. So that's why these Martians who are coming to Earth, they die because of that. So this work is also representing the life between the Edwardian and the Victorian. Then he has also written one work named as History of Mr. Polly. History of Mr. Polly. Okay, I told you one very important fact in the beginning itself, that he wrote one work named as the first man on to the moon. Okay, so the first man to the moon is about two men who are traveling to the moon. Then there is a work named as Emperor of the Moon. So the Emperor of the Moon work has been written by Afra Ben. Afra Ben has written it. And Elephant in the Moon is another work by Samuel Butler. Elephant in the Moon. Elephant in the Moon is a work by Samuel Butler. Then he has written one work named as Boon. 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 It is having a debate with Henry James. It is having one debate with Henry James on nature of novel and literature. On the nature of novel and literature. Okay. Then another
Ma'am,
work, huh?
ma'am, Henry James.
Yes, Henry James. Then there is another work named as John, Joan, John, and Peter, John and Peter, in which he is satirizing the Edwardian England. He is satirizing the Edwardian England and the education system. Then very famous work by H.G. Wells is Anne Veronica. Anne Veronica. So this is also called as a new woman novel. New woman novel. New woman novel based on the suffragette. Based on the suffragette. You know the suffragette movement?
Yes, ma'am, it was started in around 90s, 20s to 1960s,
Yes,
in which women fought for the right,
yes,
for the voting right.
yes, yes, very good. So, so the suffragette, this term, new woman has been coined by Henry James. Okay, so the term new woman has been coined by Henry James. Henry James has coined it. Okay, then there is one another work named as the New Machiavelli. The New Machiavelli. Okay. Next work which I am going to talk about is a short story by him named as A Vision of Judgment. You know, do you remember A Vision of Judgment? The Vision of Judgment has been written by somebody as a response to someone. Do you remember?
Samuel Johnson.
Sade has written A Vision of Judgment in criticizing Byron, and then Byron has written The Vision of Judgment. So remember, A Vision of Judgment is a short story by H.G. Wells. Okay, then the last writer for today is J.M. Synge. James Synge was born in 1871 and then died in 1909. He is a very famous Irish playwright. Remember the citizenship, okay? Such as we saw, G.B. Shaw is also Irish. So remember that from the country they belong. And he is a very famous figure in the Irish literary revival and the co-founder of Abbey Theatre, which was formed by uh, Auden as well. So he in the modern period he is an Irish so in Irish revival, what happened, these Irish writers started writing amazing works, but people were not really focusing much, giving them much attention. So they asked for attention and they started uh, asking for their rights, that they are also famous and their works needs to be published. And he went to live on Aran Island. Okay, so he went to live on Aran Island where he met with W.B. Yeats. And then along with W.B. Yeats, he and Lady Gregory, they started this Abbey Theatre. Did I say Auden by mistake? It is W.B. Yeats. Okay, so they started establishing the theatre, Abbey Theatre. And his writings are mainly concerned with the worlds of Roman Catholic peasants of rural Ireland and the paganism in the world, in which they are talking about the uh, ideas which are prevalent in the society in the Ireland and how they are having conflicts with the religion and the dilemma is there. Later on, he started suffering from Hodgkin disease and died while working on his last play, The Diary of Sorrow. Now, I have talked about his most famous works, which are generally prescribed in the syllabus. So, The Riders to the Sea. Riders to the Sea is set to be in the Aran Island, where Synge has once visited on the suggestions of W. Beats. And in this story, there is a story of a lady named as, what is the name of the lady? Moria. Moria. Or if you'll see the Irish pronunciation of Moria, it is Moira. Okay, the Irish pronunciation of Moria is Moira. So, there are six members in the family of Moria who have been washed ashore in the sea due to the high waves or the high tides or the low tides or due to certain eruptions which keep on occurring in the sea. So the six male members of the family has already died. So there are two sons named as William and Bartley. They both are left. And when the story starts, we see that some clothes have been washed ashore, and the daughters of Moria are washing it and trying to recognize whose shirt it is. So they come to know that William has died in the sea. William had also gone in the sea and he has died. That's why his body was eaten by the sea, but the clothes went to the shore, and they got a hold of it. See, next in the next section we see it is one act play. So in the next section we see that her second son Bartley is also deciding to go to the sea, to the other side, to do some purpose. So she is trying to stop him from going there. So she is trying to restrict Bartley from going there, but Bartley doesn't listen and goes. And the story ends
Ma'am,
while we see. Yes.
ma'am, one minute. Ma'am, first son name William or Michael? I'm confused.
Michael. Did I say William? I am really sorry.
Michael.
Yeah, Michael. So I must be relating it with sons and lovers. So where I okay, so she is trying to stop Bartley, and but Bartley doesn't listen and goes. And the story ends by the scene we see that Bartley's body has been brought home, and Moria is making coffin for his dead body. So the this is the story of the tragedy which has been there in the family, and all the male members of the family has been drowned in the sea. The next very important work is Playboy of the Western World. It is a three-act play set in Flaherty's public house in County Mayo, and it is set during the 1900s. Okay, so this is a controversial play by James Synge, because this work is depicting a man who is just making a story that he has killed his father. And when he goes and tells everybody that he has killed his father, people start cherishing him. People start thinking him to be a hero. So the Christy Mahon is the protagonist of this work, and he goes to a tavern and starts telling everyone that I have killed my father, and people start taking it very it is something very amusing for them and very brave thing to do. But later on, they come to know that he is lying about it and he doesn't kill his father for reality. But now Christy, when he comes to know that the all the image which he constructed in the heart of his beloved pigeon, the girl with whom he is in love, now also thinks that he is lying because his father is alive. So Christy goes and desperately tries to kill his father, and now the people are suddenly blaming Christy for doing that. And they were cherishing him for doing such a heroic deed, parricide, but now he is being condemned by them for doing that, and they all try to kill Christy, but he is being saved by his own father. So this work started a trial started. Riot began in the Irish Ireland, because the opening of the play was very controversial, in which he is coming after killing his father and people are celebrating it. So the riots were stirred up by Irish nationalists who viewed the content of the play as an offense to public morals and as an insult against Ireland. So they started condemning the writer by saying that what are you thinking of, you are showing to the people. So you think he wrote James Synge wrote with an idea to mock the society, okay, to mock the concept of bravery and heroic deeds. So he wrote it with an idea that nowadays we are somewhere misguided, and we don't know, we are disillusioned, we don't know the difference between the real heroic thing and the fake ones. But it started the riot, and people started condemning the performance of the play, and they started criticizing J.M. Synge for writing this work. Okay. Then a few more important works by him are In the Shadows of the Glen. In the Shadows of the Glen. It is a one act play. It is a one act play in which marriage of Nora and ORA to elderly farmer. There is a farmer named as Den, and Den is now faking his death. Okay. Next work is Well to the Saints. Well to the Saints. Martin and Mary Dowell. Martin and Mary Dowell. Dowel. Two blind beggars, saints. Two blind beggars. And saints is giving them an eye who feels disgusted to see each other. So they are getting an eye and they start feeling disgusted to see each other, and they think that it would be better if their eyes and vision has gone again. Okay, so they ask for their vision to be taken back because they are so disgusted by seeing the reality. Then the last work by him is the Pain for the Lyrical World. Pain for the Lyrical World. Okay. So that's it for
Ma'am,
today.
ma'am, fame for the lyrical world.
Pain. Paine.
Oh,
Pain. Sorry. Pain.
okay,
Pain.
okay.
Okay. So I'll stop over here. Thank